Hello, welcome to New Millennium Ministries, featuring the Diann Morgan Show, where life happens. There are two types of people in this world, those that make life happen and those that let life happen. This show is all about people who make life happen. Today we have a show that might be kind of disturbing to some people, but yet it's going to be freeing to others. My guests today are two very courageous women of God that I am so pleased that they've come to share their story of courage with you. Today's show is entitled, What's Love Got to Do with It? Love Doesn't Hurt. I'm going to start today's broadcast off by introducing my two guests. I'm going to start with my guest to my left. She's just going to introduce herself, give us her name, and kind of tell us what she's doing now. We're going to get into some background as we go along, but right now I want her to give the audience her name and what she's doing now, including her ministry.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
My name is Tammy Walker Smith, and I am a mother and a wife, and I am an author as well, and a pastor's wife. I am also a salon owner, also a organizer with the Miracle Center. We help the homeless as well.
Well, thank you. As you can see, she is very busy. And as we go along and hear some background on her, we're going to be more impressed about how far she's come, the distance she's traveled. Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
And my guest, am I right?
Hi, I'm Desiree Bowers, and I'm an author. And also, I have a shelter in Knoxville, Tennessee, Chance House of East Tennessee, LLC. I am a domestic violence advocate, and also I work with victims and survivors of domestic violence, drug and alcohol recovery, and sexual assault.
Now, these ladies are here today because they both shared a very similar experience in their childhood. And as they both said, they are authors. This is First Lady Tammy's book. It's entitled Pray for the Predator in the Pulpit. And remember when we said pulpit and predator, and the word pray, how it's spelled, P-R-E-Y. And very shortly, she's going to tell you a bit about the book, why the title, and what happened with her. And my guest, am I right, Desiree, she has authored two books. Her first book, The Prodigal Daughter, an early encounter of her experiences with molestation and abuse. And her second book, Who Are You? I Am Me. These books are available to you, the public, and we'll get back a little later on the show and how you can get these books. But first we want to start off with them sharing some of their story. We're going to start off with First Lady Tammy, and Desiree, if you want to jump in some, you can. But we're going to start with you just talking to us about your encounter with abuse and molestation. We really want the audience and everybody we can to get the message out, because it's such a problem now, and it's that hidden, secret shame. And so we want to be able to free some people by this broadcast today. So that's what this is all about. So I want you to share that with us.
Well, Diane, I was molested at age 14 by my pastor. And I loved my pastor. He baptized me, and I trusted him. But it was misguided trust. And I was in a situation where I was alone. I felt as though I couldn't tell anyone because of the authority figure, which was my pastor. And it was a very long period of abuse. I was 14 all the way up until I went to college. And I told my mother about it, and she dealt with it at the time when I told her about it. And it was just a devastating thing that happened to our family. But I'm here today to explain to individuals that it's just something that needs to be spoken out. It needs to be aware as children, they have nowhere to go because it's usually a family member or a friend. And Diann, it's just really sad that young children, they cannot speak out because of the fear. And with me, I was fearful because it was my pastor.
Right. And just listening to you tell that story of it was your pastor, it was just recently in the news about a Church of God in Christ minister here locally that was doing the same thing to a teenage daughter, and she told her mother about it, and mother addressed it with the pastor, and they both came up with the simple solution of let's pray about it. But the whole time they were praying about it, he was continuing.
Right.
So that's what today's show is about, is helping people break free from that. So we're going to go over to Desiree and let her share her experience as well.
I want to say again, thank you, Diann, for having me on your show today. I started experiencing abuse at 14. I thought I was in love with a man who was 18, and we both had a very distorted view of love. The abuse went on until I was 34 years old. I had become wiles of the world. I endured sexual assault from a man who said he loved me. The drug abuse, all that came with it. In staying in that relationship, isolation from my family and friends who loved me. It went on and on. So I'm here today because I needed to let victims and survivors know that there's help, and there's people out there that love you and want to see you either remove yourself from that situation or try to get help in getting into a healthier situation with that person. But like I said, the abuse, it was for a very long time, and I have overcame that.
Thank you. Just listening to both of you ladies, it seems that once you get into these situations that unless there's somebody there to just immediately rescue you, that it can go on for a long time. And I'm sure it had to have been scary for both of you because it's amazing you were both 14.
Wow.
That's a relationship that you both share. My next question to you is abuse and molestation, is that the same thing?
I would say that it is because it can be mentally and physically to you, and it's not healthy at all. So I would associate it as the same.
Okay. What about you?
And I agree with Tammy. Abuse is abuse. When one's abused and taken for granted, then it's just what it is. It's abuse, regardless of what action was taken.
And I know that abusers, even if you are a male or a female, it can be a same-sex abuser or an opposite-sex abuser. And it just so happened in each one of your cases, it was an opposite-sex abuser. But let me ask you this, did either one of you have a strong male figure or father figure in your life? Because so often, or so many times, especially with girls or even boys, they don't have a strong male figure in their life to go to.
Well, I would say, my father, he was in the house, but he wasn't in the house.
Okay.
My father, he loved the dog track.
Okay.
He loved those dogs. And so my accuser knew that he was never there.
Okay.
I feel as though if my father was home, it may not have happened to me. Because my accuser would not have been there as often.
Okay. And you?
For me, there was a lot going on with me. Low self-esteem, and not that I asked to be abused, but it was some choices that I made, be it in relationships, in the environment that I was living in.
Right.
There was abuse going on in the home, and it's not to say that because there was abuse going on in the home that I would 100% go out and look for a man that would treat me as my father treated my mother. But there were some things that was going on inside myself and how I felt about me and my worthiness. So that was a major factor for me.
Now, I hear that both of you lived in a home with a father and a mother, or of, you know, actual father and mother there. They may not have actually assumed that role
Yes.
that they should have, but they were there.
Right.
But yet, you still fell victim to that. So, do you think if you'd had a stronger connection, or the father had actually played a stronger role, and I know you said yes, that you felt like that would not have happened to you. What about you? Because in your book, and kind of mentioned in your book where you said the father that was in your home wasn't your biological dad, but you didn't know that until a certain age.
Right. I don't know if that would have made a difference.
Okay.
I always, because I do parenting classes as well, among other things.
Okay.
And one is, what we tell our children. And if we don't tell our children that you're good, that, some positive things, where they're nurtured and nourished, then they're going to think the other, that something's wrong with me, and I don't know if that would have made a difference if there would have been a strong male in the home, if I would have gone out and chose someone else different.
Okay. Well, my next question is, now that many years have passed and you've gotten away from that, when you look back, do you think of yourself as a victim?
When I was younger, I had not a clue of the word victim.
Okay.
I never knew that I was in a situation of, I was in a situation of danger, but I didn't know that there was a word for it.
Okay.
I did not know that there was a word called molestation. I didn't know that I was labeled as a victim. But now that I am aware and I speak about it, I am no longer a victim. I
Okay,
support
so-
victims, and I encourage victims, and I tell victims that what happened to you, make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. Speak out. Tell someone, because it could save someone's life.
Very good. What about you?
Yeah,
Do you
I
see
feel
yourself as a victim?
not today.
Okay.
In the beginning, and I would share this, maybe the first couple of times I may have been a victim, but when I kept going back, I became a participant, because there were many times that I actually got away from that person. But, I was definitely a participant, be it with him or with a man just like him.
Right.
I became a participant. So, but today I'm no longer a victim. Just like as Tammy, I go out and talk to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault.
And it's interesting that you should say you went back, because I've read both your books, and there was a period when it seemed to me that you got away,
I did.
but you went back.
I did.
So can both of you all talk just a little bit about why you go back? Because that may be a prevailing theme for people in our audience.
Yeah.
And I know somebody out there is at this moment being molested and
Oh,
abused.
yes,
and
most
we want to give you some help in breaking this chain, breaking this cycle right now, today. So that's why we're trying to be transparent and really lay it out so you can know that these women are free now.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And they're out here to
Definitely.
free you.
Yes.
Definitely.
So tell us about why you went back, because you got free for a while.
Most definitely.
Okay.
When I was 14, that's when the molestation began. When I turned 16, I spoke out and I told my mother about it. And when I told my mom about it, she was furious. She was angry. And she went and approached the individual, and the individual said that he would never ever do it again. So my mom, she actually kept us away from him from the church and everything. But one day I was at home. We were separated from my father, and I heard some laughing, and the laughing was familiar to me. I said, I know I don't hear what I hear. And it was the pastor and my mother, and they were downstairs conversating. And I went downstairs, and right then I became an actress. I became an actress because I was afraid that my life was not going to be normal again because I'd already shared once, and I felt as though I was not going to be loved, and I felt as though that what I said did not matter.
Right.
So as time went on, I felt so bad because he constantly came over, and by him coming over with the laughing and the eating, not just on Sundays but throughout the week, I felt as though it was really my fault, that I had evidently did something wrong. And I went to the individual and I told him that I was so sorry for what happened, for speaking out and saying what I said. I said that, and when I did that, he said to me, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. This time you won't say anything."
Wow.
And I never said a word, Diann. It started all back over again. I never shared it ever until I began to talk to my sister, and then I began to tell a friend, and they were telling me, "Tammy, you need to, say something about that." But I still never did. I didn't say anything, and I went off to college. When I went off to college, it was over.
Well, praise God. Well, what about you? Because you said you went back.
Oh yeah, many times.
What made you go back?
Economics.
So, expound on economics a little bit. Tell us about economics. What was he doing economically for you?
We were both very codependent.
Okay.
And
okay.
I have to, because I'm a very honest person, I just lay it out on the line. I was a prostitute and he was a pimp.
Okay.
And
A prostitute and a pimp.
a prostitute and a pimp.
Okay.
And that's something I share with people, that it doesn't matter if you're
Right.
Miss Susie Homemaker or where you are. Abuse is abuse. It
Yes,
doesn't
it is.
matter if you're a prostitute or a pimp or same sex. But abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter. So for me, there were times that I would go back because I was broke down, and I would go back. And it went on and on, and of course, just like most abusees, looking for love in all the wrong places. And you get down, you're broken, nobody wants you. He's already told you your folks don't want you, and that was part of that isolation. And they tell you, after you keep going back to them and they let you in, and you go back to him, they finally say, "Look, don't you come back here no more." So what he's just said to you, it becomes real to you, because your folks just said, "Don't come back anymore." So you begin to believe what he says, and there's this isolation. So you feel like you have nowhere to go. And when you get beat up and your eyes are blackened and your head is swollen and your ribs are broken, you go off for a while like a wounded animal until you're healed. And then you decide, well, I'm okay now and I can go back. Or let me go and maybe, and I use this, and some people think it's funny. I said, well, maybe let me try that pork chop a little bit harder next time. Maybe he won't hit me.
Okay.
So you start thinking about things that you can do to keep him from hitting you.
Right.
Because you want this so bad, and your subject title, what love has to do with it. That's the bottom line. Love.
Right.
It's love. It's love. Then the children came along. We have 3 sons.
Okay.
The children came along. So then it becomes about the children. I want my children to have their father. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep him there. If it means for him to emotionally or physically abuse me, then I'll do that, because I want my children with their father. So, there are a lot of different reasons that women go back. And until the cycle is broken, until you come out of that, that victimization, until you come into the outcome, into the solution, and that light bulb goes off. That's when you wake up and say, no more. This is it.
Well, I have a question for you. I sent you all a list of questions. This is not on that list, but I think you can answer. Now, this is your book, Tammy.
Yes.
It's little. These are Desiree's books, and they're big. Do you feel less abused because your book is small? You didn't seem to have as much in your book. Do you feel like, maybe I'm not quite as abused as she is? Sometimes people are like that. He just hits me sometimes, or he just cusses me out sometimes, so it's not as bad. It's not like he did her. Do you feel like maybe I'm not quite, my situation wasn't as tough as hers?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because abuse is abuse, little or big, it doesn't make a difference. Tall or short, it doesn't make a difference. Once you've been abused, you've been abused.
Okay.
There's nothing that you can say about it to sum it. You've been abused.
And it's important to put that out there so people won't feel like minimizing their abuse.
Right,
I'm not quite as abused as she was, so maybe my situation isn't as bad.
right.
I can hang in here a little longer.
But I've learned that even words are much more stronger than physical abuse. So, and I've had situations where some conversations in words were more damaging than some
Absolutely.
things that has happened.
Absolutely. And actually, it's the words, that's where it starts. With the name calling or telling you that you're lesser than, you can't do anything right. Nobody wants you but me.
Right.
And it's the feeding into the mind and starting to believe it, in your own mind that this is what's going on. Nobody wants me but him. And that's what happened with me, and believing in what he said. So, and for some, it could be the stalking. I also do teens dating violence. I do a workshop on teens dating violence, and and some of us think, well, he snatches my cell phone and he's looking through my texts and my contact number, and oh, he's just a little. He's just checking up on me. That's the beginning of some of that abusive and control and power relationship, which I know we're gonna probably talk about. But yeah, that's the start of it, and especially for younger women, that think that that it's okay for him to do that.
Okay. And I remember even when I was in high school, it was that thing of, boy, he slapped me, he must really love me. We didn't understand that. That wasn't love.
Right.
No.
Love doesn't hurt.
No.
But, and I would hear girlfriends say that,
Yeah.
he hit me, so he must love me. And even as a young person, I was thinking, well, that doesn't sound right to me. It didn't sound right to me.
No. And now, Diann, they'll say something like, oh, well, he's just jealous because little Larry was looking at me. And that's why he slapped me, because he was jealous. No, that's the beginning of control and power, and that's the two factors with domestic violence and sexual assault as well. It's not about the sex; it's about the control and power.
Right.
Let's talk about some different forms of abuse. We've kind of hit on it, and also in your book you mentioned various places that abuse, because we think of abuse as taking place maybe in the home or in the car, but in your book you mentioned a lot of places. But first we want to talk about some different forms of abuse, and we mentioned some, but we kind of want to pull them all together because sometimes people don't think of this is abuse.
Right.
So let's just mention some things that people should look out for as types of abuse and signs of abuse.
Right.
So I want you to talk for a while and then you kind of chime in.
I really, I'm strong on the mental abuse. It starts with the mind. My accuser, it was one word he would use all the time. He would say, give me your mind. And that's almost a form of witchcraft. Give me, it's like, give me something.
Brainwashing.
Right. He said, give me your mind. And as a child, you don't know what to say, because how can you give somebody your mind out your head? So you looking like, how do I do that?
Right.
So, and then it's the pastor, so you looking like, okay. And then he would say, you have to say it. So that's a form of manipulation, it's a form of mental abuse. And I just think that mental abuse and a misguided trust plays a strong part in molestation and abuse.
Okay. Now, was your form mental or a combination of mental? Just give us some examples of other types of abuse other than mental. There are other types as well.
It was all wrapped up in one, because as I mentioned earlier, the man who said he loved me sexually abused me.
Okay,
So it was wrapped into a sexual abuse.
Okay.
When I said no. He said, yes, you are. You know, when there was this mental abuse,
Okay.
nobody wants you but me, you know, and then it was the fear, you know, if you are a person who mistreats an animal, if you hit an animal and you continue to hit that animal, then, you know, when you approach that animal is going to scurry. It's going to be afraid. Well, that's the same way with people. You continue to, you know, a person will decide, well, this time I'm going to put fear into them.
Right.
And it's to be physically abusive.
Okay.
So when they see me and I even began to recognize the signs. I knew when it was coming. I started guarding my hand, you know, putting my hand up to my face or holding my stomach because I knew it was coming. I could see the signs when the explosion was about to happen.
Okay. So we mentioned mental abuse, some forms of emotional abuse tied in there, physical abuse, sexual abuse. So
I also would like to say the touch. If an individual touch you a certain way, that's a form of child molestation as well. And I also would like to say that the eyes and the touch with the hand, sometimes people, they really don't understand how powerful it is when the predator look at the victim or touch the victim. You can touch a child or you can look in their eyes and they are setting them up right there. Getting the control with the eyes and with the hands is very important. A lot of people usually miss that part because they don't think that the eyes or hand is that important, but it is.
very good. Both of you young ladies are probably too young to remember the movie The Mac.
Oh, I
But in
remember
the
that.
Mac, that's what he did. That's how he controlled his women. Is he
Brainwashing.
did their mind. He put them
Right.
into like a psychedelic setting, and he was making some kind of strange voiceover. But he said he would control them by controlling the mind.
Wow.
So that's really profound. And he was a pimp.
Yeah.
And they were his streetwalkers, but that's how he controlled them, by controlling the mind. So that's very profound. We're wrapping up now, but I've read both your books, so I want you to just kind of highlight a little bit of why you wrote the book, because we really want our listening audience to buy the book.
Right.
So tell us something about, you know, some reasons why you wrote that book.
The first book that was written, The Prodigal Daughter, one of the main reasons